We've got two of the top 16 players in Age of Empires 4 about to clash in a mega random tournament. This is the Nomadic Clash recap. I was hosted by Mr. Merlin. We're checking it out in the week. Let's check in with these two badasses to see who comes out ahead. Well. We are opening up with a layer of comfort, actually. You guys noticing this? Oh, I'm comfortable with that as well. Thank you, Nono, coming in with the sub. Enjoy those emotes. And enjoy that amazing pigeon telling humanity who's the boss. We're here to find out who's the boss between these two. Would it be a raccoon or an octopus? Two of them playing on two civs that they are incredibly comfortable with. Now, if you guys aren't familiar, Baboon is, of course, in this situation, Recon. There's a lot of Baboons on the leaderboard right now, but this one is Recon. And for those who don't follow his history, Recon is a renowned Mongol spammer. In fact, that's how his journey began, as most pro AoE 4 players did, because Mongols were busted at release. But he was very comfortable on this civ. In fact, Tricky Trader, who was true to his name, he was the guy going for the Silver Tree builds from the earliest point consistently out of any player in the game. He loved trade. He loves trade. He loves any situation you can find it. Wouldn't be surprised if he tries to find it in this game, considering that he has got quite a few choices for trade posts. Especially when you also consider Lenok's location. Lenok, a name that needs no introduction. Esteemed member of the SE2 community, earning over, I believe it's $300,000 in his time playing competitive RTSs. He's whipping out the Rus, a civ that I feel like has become quite synonymous with him, actually. Like in the early days, you think Lenok, you'd think something like the Chinese, but more recently, the amount of Rus I see him spamming, it's definitely a civ he's comfortable with. Probably why he wanted to slot it in for something like Mega Random as well, where you can never truly know whether something like the Chinese will get a good start. Although I'd argue Chinese literally always get a good start. Same reason why Mongols works quite well, right? Like if you don't know what the lay of the land's going to be, maybe you have some outpost rush opportunities. Most of the map generations have a trade post, which is a really important element of Mongol gameplay right now, right? It's not just because it's Recon that I'm expecting a Silver Tree. The Silver Tree is the meta right now. I'd say about 90, possibly even 95% of games involve Silver Tree trade. Because it's so cost efficient, it's so easy to get a return on your investment fast. In fact, the only player recently who I've seen build a Yam, build the Deerstone rather to get the Yam, is this guy right here, not playing as the Mongols. Fairness to him, he did win those games. Let's see if he's able to come out ahead in this one, though. People saying they're a personal fan of the Rus. I had a lot of love for the Rus. Back when I played a lot, I really enjoyed the Rus. I know a lot of people didn't like the hunting element, but it was like a mini game to me within the RTS that I actually quite enjoyed. Now, they're a shadow of the empire they once were. They had their meta, they got crippled in the ground. Arguably, Malians in English are probably the kings nowadays. A lot of people have been kind of crying out, saying maybe they need to be tweaked, maybe they need to be nerfed. We'll see if that eventually does happen. I'm going to speed up this early game a little. If you're watching this on YouTube, because I know some people on YouTube mostly comment on this, why do I do 2x speed? I'm going to address it here. In the early game, there might not be much to talk about, right? Like, look, there's so few actions happening that we can expand upon in the early game that we might as well be at 2x speed to get to more actions to dissect. That way, things don't get stagnant. Now, if a lot is happening in the early game, I do slow it down. But just thought I'd address that. Because we can very quickly go over the detail that we are seeing fishing done by Recon on the side. In fact, he's even setting up an additional dock in the corner. Something that Lenok hasn't even attempted so far. He's playing full land. He's rushing up the Golden Gate. So he will have a quicker tech to timing, but his economy long-term is going to be weaker unless you can do something with that timing. And then you have to question mark, what can you do, right? Like, the crazy part is you have to think about any opponent like you would the Mongols. It's kind of easy because the Mongols in this situation. And their TC is probably going to be dropped in a location that's hard to breach early on. And the worst part about doing it to the Mongols is even if you found a breach angle, they can just move their TC away, right? It's kind of a crazy thing. It's something that I wouldn't be against necessarily seeing more of, is the ability to just drop your TC wherever you choose as a tournament format and make it a fast drop. So not Mega Random. Let's say you do Lipany, but you can drop your TC wherever. Maybe the issue there is it makes it a bit too easy to defend, so I can kind of see why that might lead to more stagnant gameplay. Because sometimes if you look at the generation, like, oh, I only need wood and gold, I can get them on this angle. You move a TC there, all of a sudden gold that should be on the edge of your town center influences parked right underneath it. So a lot of the time you see Mongol builds where they just rush Castle Age because they couldn't be blocked off of gold at all. Obviously the build has changed away from rushing Castle Age immediately via gold on the vein to gold from the caravans that is now coming online. Alongside it, Recon is fielding a defense force. Spearmen plus horsemen being built up here. The cool thing is actually, yeah, I was about to say, Recon should already have a villager out here. So if he just sets up a marketplace in the neutrals, he can start producing double production here. He'll probably send them immediately over. But like realistically, the best play to do is you want to set up a marketplace here so you're able to push traders out and do half of the trade, as in you don't have to walk out there. You literally start here, you set your home marketplace at the Silver Tree, and then you start collecting the neutral trade post. It'll give you the full run, but in half the time. He has the option due to the amount of docks he has here. Docks that are now being joined by Leenox. Interesting play. It looks like Recon is going to try to shiv down. I don't think this is going to be quick enough. I say that, he has got an archer ship coming out there. This is going to be quite tight. Looks like it's not going to be enough. Leenox will get the dock up. It's going to cost him a villager to do so. Immediate pull the spears, though. You see the reaction coming out. So Recon looking to deny that equity. Setting up outposts at home as well to prevent any early raid in. As Leenox, he did tech up. He rushed Castle Age. And he is going into the men-at-arms. So Recon will need to catch up. The amount of fishing he's got going on, that shouldn't be too much of a worry. And the worry I do have for Leenox is if he does get Castle Age from the Mongols, there is no way you can contest the food pull. There'll be too many men-at-arms coming out from a Mongol player for a Rus player to do anything about. So the burn down does continue. So Spring Ship was at least able to take out the archer ship, but Rus are not going to stay on this water side. So he only got one ship out before being pushed off. This is really good news for Recon fans. That means he doesn't have to worry about split attention across the map. Now you can just focus on defense. And Leenox, I am honestly sensing a little bit of panic here. Going in with one, maybe two men-at-arms like this, it doesn't bode well in my eyes. You don't have any staying power. Like, you kind of idle your opponent up a little bit, but the damage done in return, like, it feels like you benefit more from going 5, 6, 7 men-at-arms and then going. But if you look at it from Leenox's perspective, he just lost any opportunity to block water. He knows how strong the economy of the Mongols is about to be. He knows he's trading. Leenox's perspective is, I have to go now. I don't care if I don't have enough men-at-arms. If I don't do something to slow him down, I'm simply just going to lose in 5 minutes' time. Sadly, what he's done to slow his opponent down, I think he's still going to lose in 5 minutes' time unless I see a switch-up. He's going for the relics, which is a respectable play here. Remember, he paid full price for the monastery and the warrior monks, though, because he went for a high trade house, one that really didn't net him that much, actually. I kind of look at 137 gold for this placement and feel a little bit underwhelmed. Will allow him to, of course, eventually unlock the higher bounty tiers via the deer spawning. But I'm not really concerned about how he looks 10 minutes from now. I'm concerned about 5 minutes from now. Step readout being built up. Dive's going to come out, but look at the damage already on some of these men-at-arms. Should limit what he's able to do in the area. The village is being pulled back. Good micro by Recon. Notice he refuses to lose any villages in the build-up. Step readout about to be complete. Tech up advantage now gone for Leenox. Not even 10 men-at-arms to his name. I don't feel like he got the bang for buck out of it. In fact, this melee mosh pit, because the arrow fire as well, is favoring Recon. Love the defensive arrow as well, just ensuring no damage comes through to him. Woodlines will continue to extend, which should allow him to inflate his production lines. I'm curious. I love to check how actually people watching feel about this game. You know, ones, if you feel like Leenox in a better position. Twos, if you think Recon's in a better position. All right, I felt going away from income would have made it harder to make a choice here, but actually it made it easier. It's so cut and dry, right? Like, you can't even pretend for a second. And it's crazy to think that those two micro dives of the men-at-arms maybe made quite a substantial difference here. Arguably, Recon had already won this map when he got to play water and Leenox ignored it, but Lee now just sticking his head in the dirt, going in for a second TC with no standing military. I don't think you can be more greedy than this. And you're going to learn the hard way why you can't do this. Lancers are now being pushed out by the Mongol player. Crossbows being prepped as well. Wouldn't be surprised if we get a blacksmith drop soon just to get the siege engineering improved. And then a slow siege into the base. I'm honestly trying to think how Leenock could have played this better. It's a tough one because I think part of it is the generation, right? Like he played north side and he didn't notice the south side docks. You could argue, like, build a second scout. You know, you are the Rus. Go find that dock. Block it earlier. I think that's maybe the key detail here. You know, fishing, despite the cripples around Navy, the changes, everything we try to do, it still feels like the world revolves around fishing. To that end, a play for Leenock could have been to play onto this fishing pond. Sure, you've got Recon really close by, but the inflated food gathering that you get would allow you to get a much quicker castle age timing, and it would have also afforded him the initial men-at-arms at a quicker pace. If he gets up to 10 men-at-arms, like his play makes sense, but without enough food behind it, his play kind of just looks like you're throwing the game. Not intentionally, right? It's through what you don't know is happening necessarily. Now that we're at this stage, it's very difficult to see a way for Lee to crawl back out. I mean, archers and spears is what? I'm trying to figure out what the logic is with this comp coming from Lee. It might just be his food and wood are stretched so thin he can't afford gold as well. And any gold he does get is going into building warrior monks. Remember, these warrior monks cost 200 gold each. But the fact that he's building archer spearmen, almost just assuming that Recon isn't building gold-heavy heavy units in general, is a very naive approach to this. Like, this is a pretty cut-and-dry comp for the Mongols. He built spearmen and horsemen to buff you early. Now he comes in with men-at-arms and lancers. And now Leenock is only just building crossbowmen as a counter. This is going to be way too slow. Yes, Recon is trading, folks. He's been trading for a while. Silver Tree, you got to do it. Honestly, I don't know how Leenock doesn't lose a third of his base before he has a counter. At which stage, like, you're now already behind. How far behind are you then? I'm at a loss for words, folks. He's still building more men-at-arms, which I can kind of get behind. You need more crossbows, though. I actually think crossbows and spears makes a lot of sense for Leenock. Just use spears as cheap buffers in the choke points. You don't have enough food income to afford men-at-arms long-term. I mean, look, he's just desperate trying to set up for deer stacks over here, but he's not even moved out to him yet. I do like that he's got a decent amount of spears in there. Wait, I'm an idiot. Ignore me. I looked at the men-at-arms. I done it to myself. I'm going to switch this around now, guys. Hold on a sec. It's because I had the UI the wrong way. Oh, I hate it. Apologies, folks. He doesn't have any men-at-arms. He does have the spears. This makes a lot more sense. The men-at-arms count is getting really scary, though. It's a snowball torch damage. Honestly, I would just love to see a Mangonel out from Recon. I think that's the final nail in the coffin. Funnily enough, we're actually seeing a Mangonel coming out from Leenock. If Recon gets one, like, the crossbows can't count the men-at-arms anymore and you lose everything. People saying Leenock has to raid the trade. Yeah, but how do you? So here's the thing. You can suggest that Leenock raise the trade. Where's his stables? Where are his knights? They don't exist. This is not an option. If you go for static comp infantry, you can't raid trade. It takes you too long. And the moment you move out of position, Recon's going to notice in a situation where you're already outnumbered. Look at the count. It's almost a 2-to-1 military pop cap advantage for Recon. Now the Trebs looking to deny the monasteries as well. It's just getting worse. I don't think Recon got the raid bonus. Wait, it's in the... Okay, he's getting it now. There we go. Raid bounty. There you go. Look at the timing. You knew what he wanted. So he's getting that bag. Literally and proverbially here. Oh, God. Leenock, it doesn't get more desperate than this. Trebs are assaulting. He's trying to build a keep. Flash comes in, and I think this should be enough to push Leenock out of the game. His front line isn't holding. His Mangonel is about to be exposed. Outpost Crawl continues to shift into his base as Recon is relentless. No standing army for Lee. He's going to have to reset and go back to the drawing board in game 2. Ring-a-ding-ding, the bell calls us in for another one between Leenock and Recon. And make no mistake about that score, folks. If you're a Leenock fan, tears in your eyes. Your boy is a point down to a monkey. A monkey is beating Leenock. That's all I'm going to say. Actually, it's a monkey. It's a monkey raccoon, really. Because Recon keeps calling himself Baboon, does this technically make him... What would it... A moncoon? Is that what it would be called? Ranky? He's a Ranky. There we go. So, Recon the Ranky isn't the Abbasid player in this game. A little bit surprising, I know, but he's actually whipped out the Ottomans. Leenock has gone for the Abbasids. A very comfortable Civ, actually. It's one of the ones that Leenock has frequented quite a lot in the last half a year. But he's whipped it out against what I defined in the previous series as an Abbasid master. He'll know most of the builds. He'll know the way that most people play it. I think Recon's going to have a decent read on Leenock's approach to Abbasids. Because I'd say Leenock is more of a traditionalist type Abbasid player. Multiple TCs, boom up, come around a little bit later in the game. That type of build can leave you very vulnerable against the Ottoman Death Stack in Feudal Age. If this is a standardized, maximized pew-pew from the archers, could be problematic for Leenock, especially when you consider the lay of the lands, because I'm noticing this, right? Like, if you are encountering mass archers, you're probably going to want horsemen plus possibly archers of your own. It has one wood stack. Even on the other side, Recon has the perfect starting area to go mass archers here. I don't think you can ask for more wood than this. Now, downside for Recon is going to be the fact that Leenock does have access to the sea. He's playing as the Abbasids, so he'll be able to set up additional docks very cheaply. But the downside to doing this play that could actually cripple him in comparison to the Ottoman archer timing is that this is shoreline fish. This is a very thin river, folks. So make no mistake about it. If Lee plays into mass ships, mass fishing boats plus docks here, I think he's going to be too slow. I would much prefer he just leverages these docks for a few odd fishing boats and maximizes shoreline fishing with villagers. That's a much better play here. And in fact, this is his only play, because if you consider the gathering time and the travel distance of shoreline fish versus berries with the Abbasids, berries could arguably be just as good. The problem, however, for Leenock is that there are no safe berries on this map. They're all ahead of his base. Oh man, this is like the most vicious spot to have chosen for himself. I feel like he's debated himself with the river selection. It seems like it should be a good thing, but I ultimately am not convinced it is. Especially when also Recon sneaks on the north side. He's on the water as well. Remember what we said about the wood. Even the distance from each newly spawned villager is quite far to get up to the wood line. It's going to be a problematic start. I think Leenock has to take a very defensive approach to this game. If he lays his defenses correctly and he buys enough time, he could come out ahead. But Recon right now has options. He either goes full aggro and plays feudal into quick push, or he can just rush Castle Age himself. And I think either is very easily accessible for an Ottoman player in this situation. My suspicion is having access to water like this for free, the way that Recon is, he might choose to simply rush Castle Age because of the extra abundancy of food he's going to have. People saying Recon has no food. Only wood. But he has the boar. Of course you can't get the boar. Now, for those saying he has no food, here's my argument. You've got the fishing online, which is a brilliant read by Recon. If you just build a Madrasa now, you can easily get Castle Age. Very fast as well. Like you're not gonna skip any corners on the way there. And there's really no reason to go anything but Madrasa here. I think going for the trade network seems cute because you can kind of have a beeline for it. But if you consider you're crossing the middle of the map to get there, it's a high-risk, medium-reward play compared to Madrasa, which, if you think about the faster unlock of Castle Age you get from that, and then you follow him with all the passively produced units, you feel a lot more comfortable. I'd actually say the bigger concern is if Leenock went for an early aggro play, this stone outcropping is a huge liability for Recon. It's going to prevent his ability to build more of these military schools. Same with this stone outcropping. They're both to the east side of his base, closer to Leenock. But it seems Leenock is not doing aggro at all. He's doing full greed. Double docks right on top of each other. And why he's doing this, by the way, is he's treating these docks like mills. So he drops another one after he clears the initial shoreline fish. Drops another one. He's shifting along. I'm very glad he's doing this because it's the only way I think he's going to get enough food to remain competitive with what the Ottomans are going to do in the mid game. I love it when this happens, by the way. I caught a glance. I'm not going to say which player it was, but I caught a glance of someone who the only way I could describe their villager is, what's that lassie? Timmy stuck in a well? Oh, God. Some of these spawns are hilarious. Like, well, when you're stuck, you make wood. Yeah, brother. Wow, he is going for the Sultani Trade Network. I wasn't expecting this. Considering he has a gold vein right next to his CC, I thought this was going to be a Castle Age rush. It still could be with the Shoreline Fish because he has now got 2 docks set up. So, in fairness to him, there is a way this works. I mean, this is an incredibly rich river. My guess is that Recon looked, he saw how much fish was on the shores and said, okay, I'm just going to play mass fishing boats. I don't need to have the Madrissa. It could be a very valuable play here. Remember, even if you can't access the trade, as an Ottoman player, you can garrison your traders in up to 6, and they'll give you 28 gold per minute. He has moved down that stone. So, far ahead of when Leenock could look for an aggro timing. I mean, Leenock, he's not going to have really any aggro to work with, right? Eco Wing's already going to slow you down because as the Abbasses, you know, unless you really go for that optimal timing, you're naturally going to be slow going for the tech up, and that's what we're seeing here. Looks like he's going to be playing onto the deer. Decent amount of fishing boats, mind you. However, after all is said and done, Recon is only 1 boat behind. And now, with the Sultani Trade Network, he gets a clear eco advantage there. So here's a crazy thought for you folks. Obviously, Leenock, he's going eco wing, so he'll get access to fresh foodstuffs. By going for fresh foodstuffs, he's going to save himself 25 food per villager, which means he saves 75 food a minute. Meanwhile, Recon, by having 2 traders garrisoned in this building, just sitting here, idly doing nothing, just 2 of them, he's going to get 56 gold a minute. That eco lead of the Abbasses isn't as big as you thought at that stage, right? That's the kind of crazy part. If you don't scale TCs, fresh foodstuffs can feel a little bit rough. In fairness, because they're not contesting each other in water, Culture Wing doesn't serve a better purpose here. But the whole point I'm trying to make is that eco lead that you then think that an Abbasis player would have here actually isn't as substantial as it seems originally. Looks like Recon hasn't built more traders, isn't choosing to trade either. I don't think you get more gold than 28 from this distance, but I could be wrong. He doesn't want to risk losing the traders either, right? This is just guaranteed income for him. Behind this, he's building an army. So we talked about the possibility, go castle or go aggro, and he goes aggro with a proxy base! Recon snaked his way in. What? I saw the counter. I was like, I don't see any archery ranges. I don't see any spearmen. Where are they coming? They're coming from the edge of the map. The cheeky git. And this is important. Remember what we said. What's the big weakness of Leenock start? Wood. This is it. This is everything. The only other one is here. Oh my. This could be a very quick game. Leenock has no standing army. He went for naked Castle Age. Oh. No. This ain't it, folks. Like that. His wood line's about to get shut down. He will barely have enough to build 1 military production building. This tech up does nothing. Remember, it doesn't change anything about the dock side because, you know, they changed the way that naval works. You've got access to all the ships. Nothing new comes in Castle Age. And now, if you just wrap in, which you can because the wood line's so far away, there's no wood at all. Recon, he sees it, he reads it, he knows it. He smells it. Potential imminent defeat within just 15 minutes for Leenock. Raxa's being built. He's at least got enough to get 1, possibly 2 out, but he wants to save a bit of wood. Goes for the blacksmith instead, and love the pivot now. Wrapping onto the western wood line. Recon, like a boa constrictor, preventing any sort of movement from Leenock. even fortifies the outpost to ensure that that will never change. Honestly, Recon, like, yeah, I was about to say the follow-up is this. You literally just go archer ships now. Because guess what? Okay, he got his military buildings down, but now you know he has no wood. What does that mean? That means Leenock has no way of defending with ships. So you send a few in, and you delete everything. What a brilliant read. Does have to be careful with the primary TC, mind you. Remember that that is a threat. Does add a lot of damage. Triples the damage it would do. Not triple, double, more double, right? 8, and then it goes up to 10. The Recon, keep in mind Recon could look to catch up here. He could go Cast Lage himself now. He's denied enough, but doubling down on military pressure is good as well. The crazy part is if you just continue to scale archers with the meta, you can pepper these men-at-arms with enough arrows they'll die before they do anything. Of course, the reason you're not going to see him necessarily commit to that fully is that he is playing up against a lot of food, right? So the men-at-arms count will get big. Instead, Recon is going to pivot. He is heading towards that Cast Lage and looks like he's prepping to push Knights out of a proxy base. Interesting detail about this build, by the way. Are you guys noticing a lack of blacksmiths? That's crazy, right? No blacksmiths to increase your production speed on all of these. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It hasn't really hurt him. Right, he got enough Vanguard force out to pressure onto the eco, and look at the desperation coming out. Leenock rushes onto the wood line and an immediate response coming in. Pivot around. He did actually get the meta point upgrade, so he has the extra movement speed to shift in. Village is about to be massacred, and Leenock slow to pull away. Too late to pull away. They were repaired. No! They repaired instead of running away. In the panic, several more villagers go down. Leenock, when all is said and done, they are eco-even. 37-38. But the villagers dying here is problematic. Remember, those shoreline fish, you can't go much further because this outpost, it doesn't just block the wood. It blocks the shoreline fish as well. Oh my god, and Leenock has somehow snuck his way out in a stealth forest. The only reason that Recon doesn't know is because Leenock hasn't chopped an extra 2 trees. But as soon as those trees go down and he gets revealed, a raid will come in on the north. Leenock needs a way out soon. Men-at-arms count is just not looking healthy, though. With the outpost with this many archers, you'll lose them. You genuinely will lose out. The spearmen as well. It's the attack speed buffer. Makes it so difficult for you to trade well here. And we do finally have that blacksmiths we were missing before. More archer ranges being prepped. Why does he go archers, you might be wondering? Because archers require primarily wood, which means he's not stripping the food and gold for a tech up, which is now underway. Memen Imperial Armory being built at home. Army continues to escalate abroad. Any damage a men-at-arms takes here is not going to be repaired, remember. Make no mistake about it, folks. Leenock, he's running out of food fast. Viable shoreline fish is now reduced to about 3. Sheep reduced to 2. Accessible deer feels like it's down at 1. And it feels like an oh dearie me moment. The men-at-arms get forced to clash here. The attack speed aura means that Recon is going to stand his ground. Remember, he's teching up behind this. It might look like it's a fight that Leenock's winning, but the problem is he's not winning it quick enough. The pullback's going to buy time. And, you know, Leenock, he needs to get rid of these outpost defenses. Outposts which have been upgraded. So they do have that extra torch armor now. Apparently, it's just going to be an aggro play from Lee, but this read feels too late. By the time you reach the base, tech up's going to be complete. You're going to be getting pressured on all sides. I don't think this is the way. Then again, does Leenock have any real way back into this? He's trying to go for a keep, but he got scouted by the... Oh. Remember, not only do docks have big vision, but so do fishing boats. And it is once again going to be a transpo ship play. Recon is about to butcher them. It's not even a keep, it's a TC! Oh no! The timing. Recon, he knows everything. Leenock, he's like a little Jon Snow right now. He might get snowed under. The army is on the march. TC to be rushed up. He might get it complete, but all it's going to do is be able to stand there. Raiding in the base is going to achieve little damage onto the Ottoman economy, but maximum pain on the other side. Not enough room for all the villagers. A few are going to be struck down. And this TC now known about, now exposed. Leenock, what can he really get out of it? The pings are going off. You can see it on the screen, the amount of red markers. It's going to be so hard for Lee to keep track of. Recon will back away for the moment. Heavy eco damage has been done at home, though. Look at the count right now. So many dead villagers. Leenock, surprisingly enough, actually gets more damage than expected out of the dive. But remember, this is the Ottomans. Passive production will see you through. And crossbows are now in play. Leenock, we said he was on a fine line here with limited food. But that limited food is now running out. And you need to make a pivot. Convert to a new cause. He doesn't even have the production to use all his current resources. Recon, he says his men-at-arms are annoying, but if we just pull back towards the naval side, we win. People right now, I wouldn't blame me for being like, well, why is Pigeon such a Recon fan? Leenock, he's got a 15 villager advantage. Sure, there's a big military for Recon, but Leenock, he's got all this eco now he can use. It's the Ottomans. I have watched Ottoman players with a third of the eco somehow win. And the somehow is the passive production. It adds so much free economy into your gameplay. You've got to consider siege that's going to be coming in from the Mermaid Imperial Armory now, as well as the production rates on these military schools haven't been escalated by the presence of a blacksmith. It just feels like Leenock is on a timer, and I just don't see anything but a timeout in his future. Because the eco is gone. We talked about the timing for it. Fishing boats are inactive. Food sources are impossible. I don't know where Leenock goes from here. He could try to set up farms in the back corner, but it's such a tight area. You could try to set some up at home if it wasn't for the fact you built all your production buildings on top of each other. It's kind of crazy, right? Like, Recon looks like he's playing AoE4, and Leenock looks like he's playing Frostpunk. If I put all the buildings together, I save on heating. The winter's kind of... We're still in winter, I'll give Leenock that, but we're past the worst of it. Christmas has passed. Okay, technically usually January's worst, but the point is, thermal issues don't exist in this game, except from the thermal issue of things being on fire. That's not really going to affect the warmth for your villagers through the winter. But it really feels like that's what you're aiming for when we look at this base. And it really does come down to a lack of room, folks. I mean, he just has nowhere to go. He has at least got some naval push. An opportunity to see Leenock. He moves out to the left side of the fishing because Recon, he got a bit stingy here. A little bit of a cheapskate. He didn't keep building military on the docks. Instead, he reset to look to go full land. Raid's still continuing from Leenock. He has got 14 men-at-arms at his disposal. He isn't throwing them all away willy-nilly, though. Keeps a few of them, well, more than a few, most of them in reserve. He's sending in small pocket raiders. The reason he doesn't send in the full men-at-arms, by the way, is because there's less villagers to kill now. He killed so many in the initial raid. Looks like Leenock is trying to get a read for everything. We'll move deep into the fishing lines. Arrow slits are coming out very soon. Outpost also being rushed up, so Leenock trying to wiggle his way back into this game. Recon has given a lot of breathing room over. He's finally started to collect his forces together. With 12 crossbowmen, he could actually clean up more or less all the men-at-arms. The heavy hit from the Mangonel, remember, damage does not get reduced on Mangonel shots. So that's pure damage into heavily armored units. And just like that, Leenock's army's gone. All that effort to get out. And now you're going to have to immediately reinvest it into more military. Difficult for Leenock to continue to wiggle out of this corner. Especially with the emplacements on the docks, just getting rid of his aggro ships. All of a sudden, that fishing eco that came online might be shut down again. In fact, you can see the emplacements have such long range, they're already sniping out the fishing boats. Leenock pivoting into archers here. I mean, it makes sense if you have enough wood. And in fairness, he does in reserve. The reason why Leenock's making this play as opposed to more men-at-arms is a lack of food. Right? The villagers might be starved in their growth because they're only 25 food each, but it's not leading to men-at-arms budgets here because he doesn't have food at his disposal. He needs to get up here on the deer. This would be a glorious spot to be able to harvest, but it's going to be a difficult one to do unnoticed. Recon. Notice that he didn't fully reinvest into defending his naval side because there's not much fishing left here. It's kind of been a shrug, so he's taking his time making his way up here. Mango's now in position on the main base, so he can slow siege through. I once again struggle to see a way out for Lee. He's done a remarkable job of just eking his way out into the map with the way he has to the north side, but there's only so much you can expand up here. And there is a crossing that's now being utilized. Outpost to be blocked out, and then all I can see is a situation where you're going to have almost 3/4 of your villagers die in this area. I don't like this. Oy, Recon even now playing for the relics. He's already got 2 banked. He's capturing sacred sites as well. We didn't talk about the sacred site generation, but this now all favors Recon with the lay of the land. Recon, notice that he's not rushing. We talked about this before, right? When this guy feels like he's got a better late game timing, he isn't going to rush an end. And to be honest, right, I don't think it matters what Civ you play in the situation. You'll always feel you have a better late game when you have 3/4 of the map under your control. And by the way, that's not an exaggeration. It is 3/4 of the map. He almost feels generous to say that Leenock has a quarter. He has, like, almost a quarter. In fact, this is dead land, right? So really, to be totally honest, folks, he has something like a 1/5 of the map. Maybe a little bit closer to a 1/6 of the map. He's going to have to come out fast and hard. He cannot wait around. I don't think that Recon's waiting around either. Notice what's happening here. Recon's done playing that dance. He doesn't want to have to run north, then come back south. Instead, he commits into the base. He says, Leenock will have to come to me. It's a good read as well. Building Springles, Trebs, everything on the front line. Passive siege production behind this as well. Feels like the army is insurmountable. Remember, a lot of this was free. You didn't pay for it. So Recon, if he trades out evenly, he's ahead. Rax is being taken out. Those they're staying out of range of the Bagglers. Pitiful range on these units. I mean, honestly, the only reason this isn't faster is, of course, the torch resistance, but it still feels like it's going to be fast enough. Lee has to build something behind this, but, like, what do you get in this situation? If you try to mass crossbows to defend now, you get countered by the Mango play. And it's triple Mango, so they will get shots out before they die to Sprinkle counters. I don't know. I feel like Leenock has wood and nothing else at this stage. Gold is, what, been fully depleted? Okay, he's moved on to a new vein. I just feel like between the need for farms, the need for more military production buildings, and now the need for additional siege, this wood line actually isn't going to last as long as you'd think. Primary TC has already been taken out. Just one landmark between Recon and victory. And he doesn't want to waste time waiting around for it. Rams are being structured. He's getting ready to go. Springles need to start trading out here instead of shuffling around, as it seems they want to assist with the building. Like, we're Siege as well. Isn't that how other Siege is made? When Mummy Siege and Daddy Siege love each other very... Ignore this story. The main story is the Siege battle has been won by Recon. Springle count is just a little bit too slow to reinforce. Mangonel's Treb still in play. And I feel like if you push out just a little bit, here we go, this is going to be the problem. Knights can buff you away. The Trebs are going to continue to siege. The Rams are moving in. Recon is going to force the fight. Mass crossbow been able to just whittle away at anything that stands in its way. And sure, you get 1 or 2 good hits, but that's going to be a little bit too little. Yes, I just said that. Leenock noticed the desperation. He's trying to rebuild the TC because he realizes the House of Wisdom is not safe in the situation. Remember what we said about this, folks. This Master Crossbows, most of it was for free. The only thing you had to pay was time. Recon's had plenty of that for most of this game. Leenock, however, is running out of exactly that. Mango's been reduced down to none. New one being built up. Leenock stretched a bit too thin. House of Wisdom goes down, and with it, Leenock's hopes of continuing on in the Nomadic Clash are destroyed.